The twin suns were setting over the red horizon of the colony world called Darren 4. The air was filled with fine dust that glowed like gold in the fading light. In the middle of the small mining settlement stood a narrow metal workshop with an old sign that read, "Tom's Repairs. Honest work. Fair price." Tom wiped sweat from his forehead as he leaned over the open engine of a mining crawler. His hands were dark with grease, his back aching from a long day. The workshop smelled of oil, metal, and the faint sweetness of fuel additives. The colony was quiet now. Most miners had gone home to rest before the next shift. Inside the workshop, a small girl's voice called out, "Dad, the soup is getting cold." Tom turned and smiled at his daughter, Leah. She was sitting on a stool near the corner, reading an old storybook projected from a cracked tablet. Her short brown hair was messy, and her shoes were covered in dust, but her eyes were bright and full of life. "I'll be done in a minute, Pumpkin," Tom said softly. "This crawler's just being stubborn again." Leah giggled. "You always say that," Tom laughed quietly. "And I'm always right." He turned a final bolt, checked the readings, and stepped back as the engine hummed to life. The crawler's owner would pick it up in the morning. As Tom washed his hands in the basin near the door, he thought about how simple and small his life had become. It was not the life he had once dreamed of. Years ago, he had trained as a starship engineer, working on human fleet transports. But when his wife passed away in a shuttle accident, everything changed. He left the fleet to raise Leah alone, settling on this quiet colony far from war and politics. Money was always short, but Tom didn't mind. Leah was safe, and that was all that mattered. Just as he turned off the lights in the workshop, a strange sound echoed outside, the sputter and hiss of an engine dying. Then came a voice, distant but clear. "Hello, is anyone here? I need help." Tom grabbed his jacket and stepped outside. On the dusty road, a small silver vehicle had stopped. It looked sleek and advanced, too advanced for a local model. The driver's door opened and a woman stepped out. Her clothes were travel-worn, but she carried herself with quiet strength. "Evening?" Tom called out. "Trouble with your engine," she nodded. "Yes, it overheated suddenly. I've been traveling since morning and I can't seem to restart it." Tom walked closer. The vehicle's panels had strange patterns, elegant lines that shimmered faintly in the light. He couldn't place the manufacturer. It looked like something built with technology far beyond what he usually saw on Darren 4. "I can take a look," he said. "I don't have many fancy tools, but I'll do what I can." The woman smiled gratefully. "Thank you. I really appreciate it." Tom opened the hood and peered inside. The layout was unusual, but he could still recognize the basic components. Power cells, cooling lines, and conduits, all familiar shapes, just cleaner and smaller. He ran his fingers along the edges, careful not to disturb anything delicate. "It's your coolant unit," he said finally. "You've been pushing it too hard. The regulator's jammed. Can you fix it?" she asked hopefully. Tom smiled, with a bit of patience. As he worked, the woman sat on a nearby crate, watching him curiously. She offered him a piece of bread and some dried fruit. "I don't have much," she said, "but please take something." "You must be hungry," Tom shook his head. "I don't take payment before finishing a job. Besides, I've got soup waiting at home." She laughed softly. "At least take a sandwich when we're done." "You can't fix engines on an empty stomach." Tom smiled and nodded. "Deal." The night grew darker and the workshop's light spilled out onto the road. Leah peeked out from the door, curious about the stranger. Tom waved her back in, but the woman noticed. "Your daughter?" she asked. "Yes," Tom replied, tightening a bolt. "Her name's Leah, smartest kid in the colony." "That's lovely," the woman said warmly. "She looks happy." Tom didn't reply for a moment. He focused on his work, though his mind wandered. He wondered who this traveler was and where she came from. The ship markings were unlike anything human, yet she spoke and looked human enough. Finally, he straightened up and wiped his hands. "Try starting it now." The woman climbed into the seat, pressed a switch, and the engine roared to life with a smooth hum. She smiled brightly. "You did it." "That's amazing," Tom shrugged. "Just experience. Machines all work the same way. You treat them right and they'll run for you." The woman stepped out and handed him a wrapped sandwich from her bag. "You earned this." "I insist," Tom laughed. "You really didn't have to." "I wanted to," she said. Not everyone would stop to help a stranger this late. He took the sandwich with a grateful nod. "Thank you. Drive safe, all right?" She hesitated for a moment as if she wanted to say more. Then she smiled. "My name's Mira," she said. "I hope our paths cross again." Tom watched her vehicle rise smoothly from the ground and glide away into the dark sky. He stood there for a moment, holding the sandwich in his hand, feeling a strange sense of peace. It had been a long time since anyone had thanked him like that. When he went inside, Leah was already half asleep on the couch. Tom covered her with a blanket and placed the sandwich on the table. He poured himself a bowl of soup and sat quietly, staring at the faint glow of the stars through the window. Something about Mira's ship bothered him. The metal wasn't like any he had ever seen. The energy pattern that pulsed beneath the panels looked almost alive. He told himself it didn't matter. She was probably a scientist or an explorer passing through. The next morning, Tom went to the workshop early. The roads were quiet, the sky pale blue. He found something unusual lying near the spot where Mira's ship had been. A small round object no larger than a coin. It shimmered faintly with light when he touched it. He turned it over in his hand. The surface showed tiny moving symbols that rearranged themselves like living script. He had never seen such a device. Strange, he murmured. He placed it carefully on his workbench and decided to study it later. The rest of the day passed normally. Miners brought in damaged equipment and Tom worked while Leah played nearby. But every now and then he caught himself glancing at the small glowing coin. It pulsed softly, almost like it was breathing. That night, after Leah fell asleep, Tom picked up the object again. When he pressed it, it projected a faint blue light above the table. Shapes appeared in the air, glowing lines forming a map of stars. There were hundreds of systems marked, most of which Tom had never heard of. One of them was labeled in strange symbols that shifted and then slowly formed English letters. Larn Collective Observation Sector 7. Tom frowned. The name meant nothing to him, but he felt a chill run down his spine. It wasn't a human map. Whoever Mira was, she wasn't just a traveler. He sat for a long time staring at the floating lights. Then he smiled faintly and shook his head. "Well, Mira, you sure left me with a mystery." He switched off the projection and placed the object inside a small box for safekeeping. Outside, the night wind carried dust across the road. The stars above seemed brighter than usual. Tom thought about his daughter, about how small their lives were compared to the vast sky. He didn't know it yet, but that simple act of kindness, fixing a stranger's ship in exchange for a sandwich, had already set something in motion. Somewhere beyond the colony's reach, in the silence between stars, a signal had been sent. It carried a report about one human mechanic who had chosen to help without question, and far away others were listening. For now, Tom only knew the quiet rhythm of his world. He tucked Leah into bed, turned off the lights and looked one last time at the night sky. He had no idea that the next time he saw that woman, his life, and the fate of humanity, would never be the same again. Morning came softly on Darren 4. Pale light poured through the workshop windows, waking Tom before his alarm. The hum of generators outside mixed with the faint song of wind across the red plains. Tom sat up, rubbed his eyes, and looked toward the corner of his small home where Leah still slept soundly under her blanket. He smiled gently. She always kicked her blanket away in the night. He covered her again before walking into the kitchen. As he brewed coffee, his eyes fell on the small metal box sitting on the table. Inside was the strange glowing coin that Mira had left behind. He had almost convinced himself that the whole thing had been a dream, but the object was real. It still pulsed with soft blue light, almost like it had a heartbeat. Tom turned it over in his hand. The script on its surface flowed smoothly like water, changing and rearranging itself. He didn't understand a single symbol. Curiosity burned inside him, but he told himself to leave it alone. He was a mechanic, not a scientist. Still, something deep inside told him that this small coin was important. He placed it in his pocket before heading out to open the workshop. By noon, business was running as usual. Miners came in with broken drills, engine parts, and cracked helmets. Tom worked quietly, his hands moving out of habit, yet his mind kept drifting back to Mira. Who was she? What kind of vehicle had she been driving? And how did that strange coin end up in his workshop? Leah sat near the door, drawing on her tablet. "Dad," she asked, "do you think the lady from last night will come back?" Tom looked up from the engine he was repairing. "Maybe. She seemed nice. Probably just passing through, though." Leah nodded. Her car was really shiny. Not like the ones here, Tom chuckled. You noticed that too, huh? The day passed slowly. As evening fell, Tom closed the shop and walked outside with Leah. The sky was a deep purple, stars beginning to appear. He pointed to one of the brighter ones. See that star up there? That's Sol, where Earth is, he said. Leah squinted. It looks so small. It is small from here, but it's home. Just then, a strange humming sound filled the air. It wasn't from the colony generators or mining crawlers. It was deep, smooth, and steady. Tom looked up and froze. A large ship was descending silently through the clouds. It wasn't like any human vessel he had ever seen. Its hull shimmered like liquid glass reflecting the fading sunlight. The air around it rippled with light as it came down just beyond the colony's border. People began stepping out of their homes, pointing and whispering. No one had seen a ship like that before. Tom's heart raced. He took Leah's hand. Stay close, he said quietly. The ship landed near the flat ground beside his workshop. Its surface opened in a slow, graceful motion, forming a ramp. Light spilled out, bright but gentle. Then, to Tom's surprise, a familiar figure appeared at the top of the ramp. It was Mira. She walked down slowly, wearing a clean white uniform that shimmered faintly in the light. The people around them murmured in shock. Mira looked exactly the same, but there was something different about her. A calm authority, a quiet strength that filled the air. She stopped a few steps away from Tom and smiled warmly. Hello again, Tom. Tom stared at her, completely stunned. Mira, I didn't expect to see you again. That ship? It's yours, she nodded gently. It belongs to my people. I came back because of you, Tom blinked. Because of me? Yes, she said. When you helped me, you showed something I needed to understand. Your kindness wasn't just a small gesture. It represented something about your species that I had to see for myself. The miners nearby whispered to one another, unsure what was happening. Leah hid behind her father's leg, staring wide-eyed at the strange ship. Tom tried to stay calm. You said you were a traveler. Who are you really? Mira looked at him for a long moment, then spoke softly. My name is Mira Talon of the Larn Collective. We are a group of worlds united for peace and knowledge. I came here as an observer studying frontier human colonies. I wasn't supposed to reveal myself, but what you did changed everything. Tom took a step back, struggling to believe her words. You're saying you're not human? Mira smiled gently. Not exactly. Our biology is similar in some ways, but we evolved on a different world. Our people have watched humans for years, trying to understand what drives them. Some believe humans are dangerous. Others believe they are the key to understanding courage and compassion. I was sent to find proof. And I gave you proof by fixing your car for a sandwich, Tom said with disbelief. Mira's smile grew warmer. You did more than that. You showed kindness to a stranger when you had nothing to gain. That's something rare and powerful. My people noticed. They saw your actions through my report. Tom didn't know what to say. Around them, the crowd had grown larger. People whispered about aliens and secret visitors. Mira looked around and then back at him. I need to speak with you in private, she said softly. There's something I must show you. Tom nodded, still dazed. All right, let's go inside. He led her into his workshop, closing the door behind them. Leah followed quietly, curiosity shining in her eyes. Mira looked around the small space with interest, her gaze resting on the workbench where Tom had placed the strange glowing coin. I see you found my beacon, she said. Tom frowned. So that's yours. What is it? It's a communication key, she explained. It sends reports to our ships and helps me navigate across sectors. When I left it behind, it sent a signal to my people. That's why I'm here. Tom leaned against the table, his mind racing. You mean your people are watching us right now? Not watching in a harmful way, Mira assured him. Observing, learning. Many of them want to understand humanity. But others think humans are too unpredictable. That's why your actions matter so much. Tom ran a hand through his hair. I don't think I understand why I'm involved in this. I'm just a mechanic. I fix engines, I raise my daughter, and I try to make ends meet. That's all. Mira stepped closer, her expression soft. That's exactly why you're important. You represent the best kind of human. Humble, kind, and strong even when life is difficult. My people value great leaders and scientists, but they sometimes forget that true strength can live in ordinary people. Leah tugged at her father's sleeve. Dad, is she really from space? Tom smiled faintly. Seems that way. Mira knelt down to Leah's level, smiling kindly. You're very brave, little one. You remind me of my sister's child back home. Leah grinned. Do you have stars where you live? Yes, Mira said. Thousands of them. Each one a home, filled with life. Tom watched the exchange quietly. Mira spoke with a warmth that felt genuine. Still, he couldn't shake his disbelief. So what happens now? You've seen enough, haven't you? Mira hesitated before answering. My people want to meet you, Tom. They want to understand how you think and how you live. They asked me to invite you aboard our ship. Tom blinked. You want me to go up there? Yes, it won't be dangerous. I promise you. You and your daughter would be safe. Tom looked at Leah. Her eyes were wide with excitement. Can we go, Dad, please? Can we see the stars? He hesitated. The idea of leaving the ground scared him. But something deep inside whispered that this was important. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was just curiosity. He sighed softly. All right, Mira, we'll come with you. But if anything happens to my daughter, Mira raised a hand gently. Nothing will. You have my word. Outside, the crowd was still gathered, watching in awe as Tom and Leah followed Mira toward the shining ship. The ramp glowed softly beneath their feet. Leah squeezed her father's hand as they stepped inside. The air inside the ship was cool and fresh, filled with a faint hum of unseen energy. The walls shimmered like glass but felt soft to the touch. Strange symbols glowed gently along the corridors. Mira guided them through, explaining as they walked. This ship is a diplomatic vessel. It carries no weapons. Every part of it is designed to learn and communicate. Tom looked around in wonder. He had worked on hundreds of machines, but nothing like this. The technology was smooth, seamless, and alive in a way that human engineering could never match. They entered a large chamber filled with light. In the center floated a sphere of blue energy showing countless stars. Mira touched it lightly and the image shifted to display the planet Darren 4. This is your world, she said. Small but beautiful. Tom stared at it quietly. I never thought I'd see something like this. Mira looked at him gently. You've done more than most ever will. You changed the way my people see humanity. They want to learn from you. Tom didn't know how to respond. He looked at Leah, who was spinning in circles, laughing as she tried to touch the floating lights. In that moment, Tom realized that his life was never going to be the same again. The woman he had helped for a sandwich had brought him to the stars, and this was only the beginning. The ship moved through the sky with smooth silence, leaving the colony far behind. From the viewing window, Tom and Leah could see the red surface of Darren 4 shrinking below them. The stars ahead looked brighter than ever, like 1,000 shining eyes watching them. Tom stood beside Leah, holding her hand tightly. She was smiling, her eyes wide with wonder. He had never seen her so excited. The look on her face made him forget his worries for a moment. Mira stood near them, her white uniform glowing softly in the light of the control room. She pressed a few symbols on the transparent console and the ship entered orbit. The blue curve of the planet filled the window, surrounded by darkness and stars. Leah gasped softly. It's so big. I can see the whole world, Tom smiled. It's beautiful, isn't it? Mira turned to them with a warm smile. It's always special, seeing a world from above. Every time I travel, I still feel amazed. Tom nodded slowly. I used to work on human transport ships. I've been to space before, but nothing like this. Your ship feels alive. Mira's eyes softened. It is alive in a way. Our ships are built with organic alloys that respond to thought and emotion. They grow and heal like living things. Tom's eyebrows rose. That's beyond anything I've ever seen. Humans can't even make machines that fix themselves. That's why you fascinate us, Mira said. Humans do so much with so little. You build, explore, and survive with tools that most species would call primitive. Yet you continue to adapt. That spirit is rare. Tom looked at her carefully. You talk like you've been studying us for a long time. We have, Mira said. The Larn Collective has been watching humanity for nearly 100 years. We wanted to understand why you keep pushing forward even when things seem impossible. Tom frowned. If you've been watching us, you must know we've made mistakes too. Wars, greed, corruption. Not everything about humans is good. Mira nodded. Yes, we've seen that. But we also see hope. Humanity always finds light again, even after darkness. You rebuild when others would give up. That is why my people believe your kind could help bring balance to the galaxy. Tom looked down, unsure what to say. He didn't feel like anyone important. He was just a mechanic trying to give his daughter a safe life. He couldn't imagine how someone like him could matter to an advanced civilization. Leah interrupted his thoughts. Miss Mira, do you have kids too? Mira smiled at her. Yes, I have one daughter. She is about your age. She lives on our homeworld. She likes to explore the crystal forests and draw stars. Leah grinned. I draw stars too. Mira laughed softly. Then you two would be great friends. After a moment of silence, Mira turned to Tom again. I have something to ask you, Tom. Something important. Tom crossed his arms. I had a feeling you did. What is it? Mira took a deep breath. The Larn Council wants to send a human representative to speak for your kind. Not a soldier, not a politician, but an ordinary person who understands what makes humans strong. They asked me to choose someone I trusted. I chose you. Tom blinked, stunned. Me? Why would you choose me? I'm just a mechanic. I don't even understand your technology. Mira stepped closer. Because you understand people. You helped me without knowing who I was. You taught your daughter kindness in a hard world. You fix things, not only machines, but also lives. That is exactly what the galaxy needs from humanity. Tom shook his head slowly. That sounds like a mistake. There are smarter people, stronger people. Mira smiled. Perhaps. But the Council does not need strength or intelligence right now. They need honesty. They need someone who reminds them why life is precious. Tom looked at Leah. She was still staring at the stars, her small hands pressed against the window. The thought of her growing up in a universe filled with peace and wonder filled him with both hope and fear. What would happen if I said yes? He asked quietly. You would come with us to the central world of the Larn Collective, Mira explained. You would live among us for a time, learn our ways, and help us understand yours. You would not be alone. Leah would be with you. You would both be safe and cared for. Tom frowned slightly. And if I said no, Mira's expression softened. Then I would take you home and my people would continue to study humanity from afar. But I believe your choice could change how our species see each other. It could open doors for everyone. Tom stayed silent for a long time. He looked at his rough hands, the hands of a worker. He had spent years fixing engines and machines, never thinking he would ever leave the colony. Now an alien was asking him to help shape the future of humankind. He felt unworthy, but he also felt a spark of pride. Maybe this was the reason he had survived all his hardships. Maybe this was what he was meant to do. Finally, he nodded. If Leah is safe, then I'll go. I'll do it. Mira smiled brightly. You made the right choice. The universe will remember this day. Leah looked at them curiously. Are we going somewhere new, Dad? Tom nodded. Yes, sweetheart. We're going to see the stars. Mira led them through another corridor into a large room filled with soft lights and curved walls. It looked like a mix of a living space and a research center. She gestured for them to sit. A circular table rose from the floor, displaying a soft hologram of planets and glowing symbols. This is our communication room, Mira explained. We'll contact the Council and tell them of your decision. But first, there is something I want to show you. She touched a glowing panel on the table and an image appeared above it. It showed several different species sitting together in a grand hall. Some had smooth silver skin, others had wings or long glowing eyes. These are members of the Larn Collective, she said. We come from many worlds, but we are united by peace. However, peace is fragile. There are groups beyond our borders who fear change, who fear new voices. Some of them want to keep humanity isolated. I believe your presence will help prove that humans can be trusted. Tom stared at the images in awe. You make it sound like a lot depends on this. It does, Mira said softly. If we fail to understand each other, there could be conflict. But if we succeed, it could be the beginning of something beautiful. Tom thought about his late wife for a moment. She had always believed that people were meant to explore, to connect, to build bridges instead of walls. He wished she could have seen this moment. Leah climbed into his lap. Dad, are they nice aliens? Tom smiled. Yes, I think they are. Mira nodded. We are not perfect, but we try to be kind. You will see that soon. A soft chime echoed through the room. Mira pressed another symbol, and the image of an older being appeared. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes glowed like calm water. It spoke in a musical voice that the ship's system translated instantly. Mira Talon, you have returned earlier than expected, the being said. And you bring guests. Mira bowed slightly. Yes, Counselor Raylan. I bring Tom and his daughter Leah. They are the humans I told you about. The counselor looked at Tom with deep interest. So this is the one who acted without self-interest. I see why you chose him. Welcome, human. Tom stood awkwardly. Thank you, I guess. I'm not sure I'm the right person for this. The counselor smiled gently. That humility is why you are. The image faded after a short conversation, and Mira turned back to Tom. The council is ready to receive us. We will depart for the capital world tomorrow. Tom nodded slowly. I'll need to prepare Leah and tell the colony I'm leaving. Mira handed him a small device. This will send a message to your people. It will explain that you have been invited to join a peaceful mission of cultural exchange. You will be able to return when you wish. Tom accepted it, still amazed. You've thought of everything. Mira smiled. We try to make things easy for our friends. That night, Mira gave them rooms to rest in. The walls adjusted their color to make the air feel warm and calm. Leah fell asleep quickly, dreaming of glowing stars. Tom sat by the window, staring out into space. The planet below looked small now, like a tiny memory. He thought about the journey ahead. He thought about Mira's words, about humanity's future, and about what it meant to be chosen. For the first time in years, he felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. When he finally closed his eyes, he whispered softly to himself, "Let's see where this road takes us." Outside the ship, the stars waited patiently, shining like endless promises across the dark sky. And so began the journey that would soon make a simple mechanic and his daughter symbols of humanity's heart. Tom stood in silence as the great silver vessel lifted off from the colony's dusty ground. Leah held his hand tightly, her eyes wide with wonder. The ship rose smoothly without any noise or shaking. Through the window, the world below grew smaller until it looked like a brown marble surrounded by faint clouds. Tom had seen ships take off before, but never from the inside. This one moved so gently that it felt like gliding through calm water. Mira stood beside them, smiling as the stars appeared around them like bright scattered sand. She could see how amazed they were. She told them they were now traveling faster than light, moving through what her people called the slipway. The stars stretched into long lines, glowing blue and white. Leah pressed her face to the glass, whispering softly in awe. Tom had no words. After some time, they entered normal space again. Ahead of them was a huge station floating near a blue-green planet. It shone with rings of light, and hundreds of ships of different shapes moved around it. Mira explained that this was the Larn Central Station, where many species lived and worked together. It was a place of peace, built to share knowledge and trade between worlds. When they landed, Tom expected cold metal corridors like human ships. Instead, he stepped into warm air that smelled like flowers. The walls glowed softly with color, and the floor felt alive as if made from smooth living stone. Strange but gentle creatures moved around, talking in soft tones. Mira led them to their quarters, a bright room filled with soft lights, small plants, and a large window showing the planet below. Leah ran to the window and pointed at a group of small ships flying in formation. "Are those people flying them?" she asked. Mira nodded and said they were student pilots from different worlds learning to navigate near the station. Leah smiled and said she wanted to learn too. Tom watched her face glow with excitement and felt his heart lighten. The next few days were full of wonder. Mira introduced them to many beings who wanted to meet the first humans living on the station. Tom met a tall, golden-skinned alien named Ren, who managed the engineering division. Ren showed him how their machines worked using living energy that flowed like light through crystal veins. He explained that Larn technology grew and repaired itself. Tom was fascinated and asked endless questions. Ren laughed softly and said Tom had a curious mind, just like a Larn scholar. Leah spent time in a learning hall with young aliens. They played with floating orbs that changed shape when they touched them. She taught them how to draw pictures using simple human crayons. The alien children were amazed at how the colors blended on paper. In return, they showed her how to make sound images, shapes that formed in the air when they hummed together. Leah's laughter filled the room every day. Mira often joined them for meals where food appeared as bright shapes on glowing plates. She said it was made from pure energy and could taste like anything they wanted. Tom asked for the taste of home, so Mira programmed the food to taste like bread and soup. Leah clapped her hands in delight when she recognized the familiar flavor. Mira smiled, pleased to see them happy. But not everyone was pleased. Some members of the Larn Council doubted that humans could be trusted. They had heard stories of human wars and feared their strong emotions. One evening, Mira told Tom about it. She said that certain council members thought humans might bring chaos into their peaceful alliance. Tom felt uneasy but understood their concern. He said that humans were far from perfect, but they always tried to learn and do better. Mira nodded, saying that was why she believed in him. Days turned into weeks. Tom began helping Ren in the engineering sector. He learned how to connect human tools to Larn machines and even fixed a damaged power core using simple logic and creativity. The Larn engineers watched in surprise. They had never thought of solving problems that way. Ren called Tom's approach human improvisation and said it was both strange and brilliant. Meanwhile, Leah's joy brought warmth to many on the station. She played with children from many worlds, and even some adults stopped to watch her energy and kindness. She would greet everyone, even those who ignored her at first. Slowly, her bright smile softened hearts. Mira often said that Leah's spirit showed the best of humanity, pure, curious, and kind. One night, as the stars shimmered outside, Tom sat by the window thinking. He realized he was far from the small workshop where his old life had been. Now he was living among beings from across the galaxy. He wondered how he, a simple mechanic, had ended up in such a place. But when Leah came and rested her head on his arm, he smiled. He knew why. Because of one small act of kindness, the peace did not last forever. One day, an alert spread through the station. A group of ships from a rival species called the Drav had entered Larn space without permission. The Drav were not part of the Alliance. They were known for being proud and easily offended. Mira explained that if the situation turned hostile, it could destroy the years of peace between many worlds. A council meeting was called. Mira was chosen to represent her sector, and she asked Tom to come with her as a human witness. He hesitated but agreed. Inside the grand hall, hundreds of delegates from many species filled the seats. The walls glowed with patterns that changed with their emotions. Mira spoke calmly, suggesting peaceful dialogue with the Drav. But some council members argued that the Drav could not be reasoned with. Suddenly, a message arrived. The Drav demanded to speak directly with the human representative. The council was surprised. They asked why the Drav wanted to talk to Tom, a simple man with no rank. Mira looked at him and said softly, "Because they have heard about you." When Tom stood before the communication screen, the image of a large Drav leader appeared. His face was covered with silver scales and his eyes glowed faintly. He said he had heard that this human once helped a traveler without asking anything in return. He asked if the story was true. Tom nodded and said it was. The Drav leader stared at him for a long moment, then asked why he did it. Tom said simply that helping others was what made life worth living. He said he had nothing to gain, but it felt right to help someone in need. The hall went silent. The Drav leader said that such behavior was rare among the stars. He promised not to attack the station and instead asked to visit in peace. The council was stunned. Mira turned to Tom with tears in her eyes, whispering, "You just stopped a war." But Tom shook his head and said no. He just needed to be reminded that kindness still exists. After the meeting, many council members came to thank him. Some who had doubted humans before now looked at him with respect. The story spread quickly through the station. Beings from far worlds came to see the human who believed in kindness more than power. That night, Mira visited Tom and Leah. She said the council wanted him to take part in future discussions between species. They believed his simple wisdom could guide them through difficult choices. Tom smiled but said he was just a mechanic. Mira replied, "And that is exactly why you are perfect. You fix what is broken, not only with tools but with your heart." Tom felt humbled. He looked at Leah, who was drawing stars on a screen. He thought about how far they had come, from a small dusty workshop to the stars. He realized that life had given him a chance not only to build machines but also to build bridges between worlds. As he gazed out the window, the planet below glowed with soft light. Ships moved like fireflies across the night sky. Leah leaned on his shoulder and whispered, "Dad, do you think we'll ever go home?" Tom smiled and said, "Maybe one day. But right now, the stars need us." And in that moment, surrounded by endless light, Tom felt at peace. He knew their journey was not over. The universe was vast, full of challenges and wonder. But as long as people remembered kindness, there was always hope. Mira watched them quietly from the doorway. She felt something deep inside, a sense of gratitude and admiration for the simple human who had changed her people's view of an entire species. She knew that his story had just begun, and that soon every corner of the galaxy would know about the man who fixed a car for a sandwich and changed the future with a single act of kindness. The morning light on the Larn homeworld cast long, soft shadows across the council hall. Tom and Leah stood at the entrance waiting for the proceedings to begin. The hall was enormous, filled with delegates from dozens of species, each with its own unique appearance and language. The walls shimmered with living light, adjusting colors to match the emotions in the room. Mira stood beside Tom, offering reassurance. "Remember," she whispered, "speak honestly. Your words carry more weight than you think." Tom nodded. He could feel the tension in the air. The council had gathered to decide humanity's fate, and some delegates still doubted that humans could be trusted. It was a heavy responsibility, far beyond anything he had imagined when he first fixed Mira's vehicle for a sandwich. Leah clung to his hand, her small fingers warm and steady. She looked up at him and smiled. Her innocence reminded him why he was there. He was not speaking for power or wealth. He was speaking for hope, for honesty, and for the truth of what humanity could be. The hall fell silent as the presiding elder, a tall being with silver feathers and luminous eyes, called the meeting to order. Delegates murmured among themselves, exchanging glances and whispered debates. Some eyes were curious, others skeptical. A few were openly hostile. Tom took a deep breath. He stepped forward and looked around at the council. "I am Tom," he began, his voice steady. "I am a human mechanic. I fix engines. I raise my daughter. I'm not a warrior, a diplomat, or a scholar. I am just a man trying to do what is right." A few delegates leaned forward, intrigued by his honesty. Tom continued, "I once helped a traveler whose vehicle had broken down. I asked for nothing in return. All I wanted was a sandwich. I did it because it felt right. That small choice mattered more than I knew at the time." He paused, looking at Mira, who nodded softly. Then he turned to the council again. "Humans are not perfect. We make mistakes. We fight, we fail. But we also care. We help without expecting reward. We protect those weaker than us. We learn from our failures and we try again. That is who we are." The hall was quiet. Tom's words had reached the delegates in a way that no speech, argument, or debate could. They felt the sincerity behind every syllable. "Your actions, human, are noted," said one of the elder delegates, a tall creature with translucent skin and glowing veins. "Yet can one act of kindness represent an entire species?" Tom shook his head. "No, but it can show what we are capable of. We are more than our conflicts. We are more than our mistakes. And if given the chance, we will prove it every day." Mira stepped forward slightly and added, "I witnessed this choice myself. It was not just a small act. It was a reflection of the strength and compassion that defines humanity. That is why I brought them here." The delegates looked among themselves. Some nodded slowly. Others seemed thoughtful, unsure how to respond. Then a ripple of conversation spread across the hall, as a few council members who had been wary spoke quietly to their neighbors. A moment later, the presiding elder spoke again. "Your words are clear, Tom. Your honesty and courage are evident. Many of us feared humans could not be trusted. But today you have shown us that humans can be guided by conscience and care, not only by strength or ambition." The room filled with murmurs of agreement. Tom felt a sense of relief, but he did not let his guard down. He continued, "I do not ask for trust because I am special. I ask for trust because humanity can choose to do what is right, even when it is difficult. That is our gift and our responsibility." Leah tugged at his sleeve. "Dad," she whispered, "they're listening." "Really listening?" Tom nodded and took her hand. "Yes, sweetie, they are. And that matters." For the next hour, each delegate was given a chance to speak. Some spoke of human history and achievements. Others admitted fear and uncertainty. Tom listened quietly, realizing that this conversation was more than a debate. It was a test of understanding, of seeing beyond appearances and past mistakes. Finally, the presiding elder raised a hand. Silence fell immediately. "We have considered the testimony and observations provided by Tom and Mira. We acknowledge the courage, honesty, and compassion of this human. We also acknowledge that humanity, like all species, is flawed but capable of great good." He turned to the council. "We hereby extend an invitation to humanity to join the Larn Collective as a full member. Their presence shall enrich our alliance, and their actions shall serve as a reminder of the importance of conscience in all decisions." The room erupted in whispers, some joyful, some incredulous. Tom stood frozen, unable to believe what he was hearing. Mira's smile was radiant. Leah's face lit up with excitement, and she ran to hug him. "Dad," she exclaimed, "we did it. We really did it. Tom hugged her tightly. He felt a mix of pride, relief, and awe. The journey that began with a simple act of kindness had led them to this moment: recognition, acceptance, and hope for the future. Over the following days, the council hosted celebrations. Delegates approached Tom and Leah, expressing gratitude and admiration. Many wanted to hear the story of the mechanic who fixed a vehicle for a sandwich, and reminded them that simple choices could carry great power. Tom shared his story humbly, emphasizing that anyone could make a difference. In the evenings, Tom and Leah would sit by the observation window of the ship, looking out at the stars. Mira would sometimes join them, sharing stories of other worlds and cultures. Leah listened with wide eyes, asking questions about distant planets, glowing forests, and cities of crystal light. Tom realized that life had given him more than he ever imagined. He had started as a single father on a quiet colony, and now he was a symbol of hope for his species across the galaxy. He understood that heroism was not always about battles or power. It could be about courage, honesty, and the willingness to do what was right when no one was watching. One day, a delegation from a neighboring system visited the station. They had heard of the human who changed perceptions of their species. Their leader, a tall figure with wings of silver light, greeted Tom. "We have doubted your people," he admitted, "but your actions have shown us what humans can be. You remind us that compassion is the strongest power of all." Tom smiled and shook the leader's hand. "All it takes is a choice. One choice to do the right thing. Anyone can make it." Leah watched silently, absorbing everything. She leaned on Tom's shoulder and whispered, "Dad, will humans always be able to make choices like that?" Tom hugged her gently. "They will, as long as people remember to be kind and brave. That is the secret, Leah. That is what makes humanity strong." Months passed. Tom continued to advise the Larn Council, sharing insight into human values, culture, and decision-making. Leah learned from alien children and teachers, growing more confident, curious, and wise with each day. They traveled to distant worlds, witnessing civilizations and cultures unlike anything they had imagined. And yet, through all the adventures and marvels, Tom never forgot the small act that began it all. He remembered Mira stranded on a dusty road, her vehicle broken, and the simple sandwich that became the start of something far greater. One evening, standing on a balcony overlooking the glowing city of the Larn capital, Tom turned to Mira. "I never expected my life to change this much. All because of a sandwich," Mira laughed softly. "Sometimes the smallest actions carry the greatest weight." Tom nodded. "I hope everyone remembers that. Not just humans, but everyone." Mira placed a hand on his shoulder. "They will. Your story is now part of the history of the stars." That night, as Tom and Leah looked out at the endless expanse of glittering worlds, they felt a deep sense of peace. Humanity had taken its first step among the stars, not through force or conquest, but through honesty, compassion, and courage. Tom whispered to Leah, "Remember this moment. Always choose kindness. That is what changes the world." Leah nodded, her eyes reflecting the shining stars above. "I will, Dad. I promise." And so the mechanic and his daughter returned to their work of building bridges, mending hearts, and inspiring countless beings across the galaxy. From that day forward, humans were not just another species among many. They were a reminder that even the smallest acts of goodness could change the fate of worlds. The story of a single dad who fixed a car for a sandwich became legend, teaching the galaxy that courage and kindness were more powerful than any weapon, and that humanity's true strength lay in the heart. And in the endless skies, the stars shone brighter than ever, celebrating the day that one simple choice changed everything forever.